I'd like to get started. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School, 550 Dorian Road, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, September 12th, 2024, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Patty, may we have a roll call, please?
Rob Bonaccio.
Here.
Kent Diamond.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Charles Gelinas.
Here.
Layla Morelli. Here. Sonal Patel.
Here.
Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz. Julie Steinberg.
Here.
Mary Wickens.
All right, we'll open with a flag salute, and we'll let our student rep lead, please. Next, move to some announcements. We'll start with Kent.
Thank you, Rob. Save the date for on Tuesday, October 8th, as the district's K-12 Director of Counseling, Phelan Balasone, and members of her team lead an informative and important session to help parents understand the harassment, intimidation, and bullying (HIP) process. This session is for parents and guardians of students in grades pre-K through 12 and will be held in the Wilson Elementary School Library from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And next, as we mentioned at the last board meeting, we enjoy recognizing and raising awareness of the many traditions of our diverse school community. Currently, it is National Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs from September 15th through October 15th and celebrates the invaluable contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans to our nations and to our Westfield community. Thank you.
Yep, I have two as well. The first, the PTC Special Education Committee is hosting a fall parent social on Wednesday, October 16th, beginning at 7 p.m. for parents in the special education community. Location to be announced soon. And the second one, the Westfield Police Athletic League is holding an upcoming flag football mini camp for children with special needs, ages 5 to 14. The mini camp will provide one-on-one instruction while moving through the stations focused on passing, catching, rushing, and defense, while also allowing the children to enjoy time with their friends, neighbors, and classmates. Games will be played for participants who are game ready for the last 20 minutes of the camp. No prior knowledge or football experience is necessary. The mini camp sessions will be held on Saturdays, October 19th, October 26th, and November 2nd from 1:15 to 2 p.m. at Tamaulipas Park. Register for this free program at westfieldpal.org.
CJ?
Project Playground, which was established in December 2022, has now raised more than $400,000 for accessible playground updates at Lincoln, Franklin, and Jefferson schools. We are grateful to the generous businesses, school PTOs, and community organizations who have donated to this worthy effort. Most recently, the Westfield Foundation provided $20,000 towards the Franklin Project Playground effort. Accessible surfacing and 8 pieces of accessible playground equipment are due to be installed at Franklin during this school year. And while the Franklin Project Playground has reached approximately 90% of its target fundraising goal, it continues to raise money to support the installation of a student-designed mural in partnership with Westfield High School students. Please reach out to ericawitt24@gmail.com to learn more.
Julie?
The New Jersey Department of Community Affairs is sharing information about the New Jersey-led remediation and abatement program. Key aspects of this state program include free lead inspection and remediation services. To be eligible for the program, a property must have been built before 1978 and free from structural issues, and the household gross income must not exceed 80% of the area's median income. The program is open to both tenants and landlords. provided the occupants meet the income eligibility requirements. Anyone interested in applying should visit the program's website at leadabatement.newjersey.gov, email lrap@dca.nj.gov with any questions.
Layla?
There are many ways to support our students thanks to our generous community partners. Please visit the Community Flyers page on the district and school websites where you will find information about the PTC Scholarship Fund, the PTC Special Education Catherine Cuthbertson Achievement Award, the Westfield Education Fund, the Westfield Coalition for the Arts, the Westfield High School Helping Hands Fund, and other charitable initiatives. Many upcoming events by nonprofit community organizations are posted on the Community Flyers page as well.
Sonal?
This is a reminder that schools will be closed on Thursday, October 3rd, and Friday, October 4th, in observance of Rosh Hashanah. Schools also will be closed on Monday, October 14th, for a Staff Professional Development Day.
You got the popular one. The next regular public meeting of the Board of Education will be on Tuesday, October 15th, in Cafeteria B at Westfield High School, beginning at 7 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed via the district YouTube channel, which viewers can access on the Board tab on the district website. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, October 11th. Before I turn things over to Dr. Gonzalez for the district administration report, I want to take a moment to welcome our student representative, James Furr, to the board. One of the better things that the state legislature has done over the last couple of years is created a seat for students from the district as part of the boards of education. James is the vice president of communications, I think, of the. See, I told you I get that right. Of the student government. I want to thank you for volunteering, for serving, and for spending your Tuesdays with us. James will be giving a report after Dr. Gonzalez, but I want to formally welcome you to the board.
So this evening, I have a few remarks, and then I will be handing over the presentation responsibilities to colleagues. So I will get started simply by saying welcome and happy new school year. The excitement and energy during the opening of school have been palpable across the district. Last week, our first full week of school, we engaged the community through various events, including the Referendum Community Advisory Committee, and the Special Education Department and intermediate schools back to school nights. And this week, we look forward to the elementary schools back to school nights. In the classrooms, as we implement our new curriculum and assessment initiatives, we are eager to see the positive impact on teaching and learning throughout the year. And more updates will be shared during future board meetings, principal e-blasts, and the district newsletter. Tonight, for my superintendent's report, I would like to provide information regarding the mandated graduation pathways report and the mandated Students Safety Data System report. As required by New Jersey Administrative Code 6A8-5.2F, the Graduation Pathways report provides an overview of how students met New Jersey's graduation requirements, including the various pathways used to fulfill the ELA, English Language Arts, and math requirements. For the 2023-2024 school year, 463 students graduated in June, with one additional student completing summer school. Of these, 15 English Language Arts and 26 math students met their requirements via IEP accommodations, while 2 English Language Arts and 11 math students utilized portfolio appeals to satisfy the graduation requirements. The full report is available in tonight's notes for the record. Now moving on to the Student Safety Data System report, the mandated SSDS report covering the period from January through June 2024, also listed as an attachment in the notes for the record, includes incidents related to violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and confirmed HIB cases. It also tracks incidents that resulted in students' removal from class, the use of restraint or seclusion, and anti-bullying trainings. The detailed summary that's attached to the agenda helps us review, assess, and improve safety and anti-bullying efforts. Lastly, I'm pleased to introduce the 2 presentations tonight. First, Fallon Balasone, our Director of School Counseling, will provide an overview of the district's counseling program, Following that, Patty Ramos, our business administrator, and Mike Beery and his colleagues from FKA Architects are here, and we will present the final facilities project proposals under consideration for the upcoming referendum. Both of these presentations highlight how the goals and objectives of our strategic plan are coming to life in our school district and moving us forward. This time, I'd like to invite Fallon Balasone to the podium for her presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. Glad to be here to talk about our counseling program and services here in the Westfield Public Schools. So, our philosophy for our program and services here is detailed up on this slide, but it's actually pretty simple. It's to support our students both emotionally and academically, and most importantly, to be there when those two things converge. I think we've all witnessed students being impacted by their emotions when it comes to school, and vice versa, their academics being impacted by emotions. So I think that moment where they come together can be one that's difficult, it can be one that's very revealing, and it's also one that is full of potential. And that's where the school counselors come in. We want to take advantage of that moment and use that to help our students build character, to build those values that they want to grow throughout their time in our district of integrity, responsibility, kindness, and that's what our program is all about. It's a pretty monumental task. It sounds like a lot, but we do it through a multi-tiered system of support. Just like you hear about with instruction, we also have a multi-tiered system of support for counseling services. So to start with Tier 1, these are our services that meet all of our students, that serve everybody. We do this mainly through programming, school-wide programming on all levels, pre-K through 12. It looks a little bit different depending on the grade level, but it happens in every single school building. We talk about social emotional wellness. As the students get a little bit older, we start talking about drug and alcohol misuse, and of course, college and career readiness, all through our programming. We have some examples up here of what you'll see at each level. I personally am really excited about the Thursday Table Talks program at the high school that we piloted last year and are continuing to grow this year. On Thursdays, we have our counselors set up at a table outside the cafeteria and student center during all lunch periods, delivering some sort of program. Sometimes it's thematic, based on it being the Week of Respect or Red Ribbon Week or anything like that. And sometimes it's just a stress reliever activity or something a little fun for the students to come engage in. And you'll see something similar to that at the intermediate schools as well. Our student assistance counselors get out in the cafeterias there a lot, set up a table, and they do a program that's open to all of our students. Of course, we also have evening programming where parents and guardians are invited, and I'll be talking a little bit about that tonight and highlighting that. Our Tier 2 services are counseling. So these are the services that meet most of our students, whether they're in a social skills group at the lower levels or in group counseling at the secondary levels. For example, we ran some groups last year for all students who were new to the district so they could meet each other, get acclimated, and we've run grief groups, divorce groups, things like that. And then, of course, our students who are in need of short-term, individual, solution-focused counseling. So those are our Tier 2 services, which have been bolstered by the addition of our student assistance counselors. We've been able to do a lot more of this. And then, of course, we have our Tier 3 services, which are for a few students, a smaller percentage of students, and this is a lot of our crisis response and referral. So the counselors do spend a good amount of time on our list of examples down at the bottom in terms of teams that we consult with, that we serve on, and referrals that we make. We do a lot of work with families and other teams around the district to make sure that we're responding and preventing crises and also referring appropriately when a student has not found success with Tier 1 and Tier 2 services. So we spend a good amount of time with harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigations and remediation, serving on INRS and 504 teams and implementing those plans, consulting with child study and behavioral threat, and more. All of these tiers have been developed last year, and now moving on to this year, with the addition of the student assistance counselors at the intermediate and high school. It's been so amazing. I can't even say it enough. Where we had no programming, we now have a full, complete program that I think goes above and beyond what you'll see at other schools. We're really proud of it. I think the work has been really creative and original. We're not just going by textbook ideas. We're trying to figure out what the needs are in our specific schools and respond to them. We're using student feedback to plan our programs, and the student assistance counselors at the secondary levels are really the ones that are spearheading this and executing it. And it's been a huge success. We've gotten lots of great feedback about it. So thankful to the community, of course, for allowing us to have these positions and to be able to continue with them and build the program. We look forward this year to kind of taking it to the next level as well and using our student assistance counselors both for programming and that Tier 2 and Tier 3 counseling. Thanks to Miriam again. We have these lovely infographics of what our programming looks like at each level in the district. So for our pre-K through 5 students, what our counselors there focus on are being consistent in terms of the topics they cover. So as a group, we have determined that these areas you see on the infographic, such as responsibility, gratitude, perseverance, kindness, these are the areas that are covered in every single school building. We use a program called Character Strong. It's an SEL program that helps deliver lessons in the classroom to cover these in a consistent way. That was a big step forward we took last year at that level. We still have some work to go in terms of consistency, but our elementary school counselors also do a lot of response to need. So a teacher might call them up and say, oh, there's this conflict going on in my classroom for the past 2 weeks, and you come in and do a lesson on it. So while we do have these consistent programs throughout the district, you'll also see a lot of additional work happening that's school specific based on the need. We've been able to plan this whole program at the intermediate level just because of the addition of the student assistance counselors. There were a couple really great programs that existed before that the school counselors run, but now we have a whole additional program that we're really proud of that we rolled out last year that we're continuing this year and building upon. And it is consistent across the 2 intermediate schools. Our 2 student assistance counselors work together to plan this program and to deliver it at around the same time in each building. So each month there's certain activities that they're both committed to doing at each building. And you can see here that they have wellness fairs. They have little pop-up stations for some of the themes like gratitude and body positivity. Mindful Mondays has been a really fun thing that the students have been loving. So we're really excited to build on this, the foundation we created last year. And then we have the high school programming. We are a little bit more structured at the high school with our program. We have a pre-established calendar with specific dates of when we're doing what, so it looks a little bit different at the high school. And I know this looks like a lot, and it is. So this is a mixture of our daytime programming that's just for students that happens in the school building, and also our evening program where parents and guardians are invited to come as well. It's on our website, it's everywhere that you can find it. And it shows not only the Thursday table talks that are planned, but some other programs that we have throughout the year, and also our evening programs. So you'll see that on our website, and when you see this infographic around on the district pages, the evening programs are highlighted to kind of show you which those are, but I do have them called out on the next slide, so we'll be able to look at them there as well. We want to do a really big shout out to our first ever district-wide evening program for parents or guardians that's counseling related. We're pretty excited to have a HIB information night on Tuesday, October 8th in the Wilson Elementary School Library. Parents pre-K through 12 are all invited. So we're really happy to start rolling out that district-wide programming that we haven't really seen before. And this is about a really important topic that is touching more students than you can imagine. And if it hasn't touched your student, it may soon. So it's really important to come on out and learn about the HIB law in the state of New Jersey, how it works, and what it can mean for your child if they end up involved. So we hope that you'll come on out and join us in this conversation about harassment, intimidation, and bullying in our district. Here's some of the other evening programming that we just wanted to pull out from that infographic. I wanted to shout out a few upcoming things. I'm really excited. Tomorrow night, we have College and Career Finish Line, which is for grade 12 families. Parents and guardians, we encourage you to bring your seniors with you. This has historically been called Senior Parent Night, but we have reimagined it this year, and we really hope you'll come out and see what's in store for both our students and parents. We thought it was important for families to hear the message together and not separately. So we are taking a Westfield-specific lens on this night. We're going to talk about what this process of college and career means for your child here in Westfield, the implications of that. We're going to try to give greater perspective on how to get through this year as a family, both as a student and a parent. It's a roller coaster of a year, so we're going to try to help give you some perspective there and maybe give you some talking points to continue on at home as a family. So again, it's reimagined, it's refreshed. If you have an older child and you've been to Senior Parent Night before, please come for this because it's different. And we promise you it's going to be helpful and useful. And we have myself and 2 school counselors from the high school presenting, Jamie Glickman, who is truly expert in the college admissions process, and Rebecca Labus, who happens to be a mom of twins that she just sent off to college. So she has a really unique perspective on going through the senior year, both from the school counselor hat and the parent hat. I love hearing her talk about it, so she was happy to come and share her thoughts at this night. So please come on out. Obviously, on the 8th of October, we have the HIB night. And then you'll see that on October 17th, we have something called College and Career Jumpstart. Now, this is the reimagined Junior Parent Night. So that's what it used to be called. But I really thought that this topic was not just for junior parents. I really think that any student and parent of a high school child could benefit from coming out and just starting that conversation about thinking about life after high school. So again, another reimagined event. If you've gone before for your older child, please come to this again because it's going to be different. We're pretty excited about it. And then, of course, on October 22nd, we have our College, Career, Military, and Gap Year Fair, our 2nd annual. Last year, we brought this back from having it go away during COVID. So we're really excited for our 2nd year of this fair. And again, this is open to the community, so feel free to bring friends, family from anywhere, or invite them to come on their own. There's many other nights on here. I won't go through them all, but I implore you to make sure that you're coming out to our events. We send out lots of reminders about them as they're coming up, and we're really happy to take feedback about them as well so that we can continue to improve them year after year. Some exciting things going on with the counseling program, in addition to that district-wide evening programming that I mentioned. I also had discussed before that our elementary and middle schools use a program called Character Strong for their character ed lessons. And Character Strong just received a CASEL Select designation. CASEL is a governing organization of SEL programs. And this designation means that Character Strong is evidence-based, effective, and has outcomes that are measurable. So we were pretty excited that it received that designation because we've been enjoying using the program. We have increased college and career programming. For example, we're taking a field trip this year of students to an HBCU fair, Historically Black College and University Fair. We are bringing back our college admission reps to visit the high school, which is starting tomorrow. We have a full calendar booked of them coming. We are going to be bringing the traditional If I Knew When evening events, which were the panels with alumni and seniors for the underclassmen. We're actually bringing them into the school day so that this way all students can benefit from the program, because we thought these panels were pretty helpful and insightful, and felt pretty bad for the students who weren't there all these other years. So we're excited that we had the chance to build it into the day this year. So looking forward to that as well. And we have very little career programming at the high school, so we're excited to start building that this year. We're going to take a little step towards a real robust career program. We have a new program at the high school called the Counseling Ambassadors. Our student volunteers started this week. It's upperclassmen who are coming during their free period to volunteer in the counseling center. They're going to help us welcome new students, give tours, check in on new students, go check on them at lunch, be a buddy to them. They're also just going to help us with all the operations we have going on in our busy office. So while the admission reps are coming in and out all day, they're going to be there to greet them, walk them to their location, get them set up, sit with them, everything like that. and much, much more. Also, they're going to be volunteering at our evening programs. So now you will not get shut out. If you come at 6:30, the door will not be locked and you won't have to bang on it and ring the doorbell. We'll have a student there to open the door and let you in. So we're pretty excited about that student representation at our evening programs to kind of help support our message. We do have plans to begin a first-generation college student program. So we're going to kick this off by having a field trip to a local college and learning more about their EOF program, which is a program that targets first-generation college students and gives them some additional support in college. So we're super excited about that and thankful to work with the World Language Department on that. We are going to continue our work with Rutgers University and the Comprehensive School Mental Health System grant. Last year was our first year working with Rutgers, and it was mostly an information-seeking year. So we had our liaison visit us several times. We went to many trainings, and they were mostly just trying to collect information about our school, what we do and do not have. This is the second year where we're going to start diving into action items. So we will keep you updated as any action items arise. I will tell you that one of those action items was better communication, which is why I'm here. So the liaison seemed to think that we had a really robust program and that we were doing a really great job, but that people didn't know about it. So that's one of our big goals for this year, is to make sure people know about all the work that we're doing and all the services that are available to your student. Lastly, we're still trying to build our Blue Devil Community Network. You may have heard of this. It's an initiative that we have where we are trying to get adults who are connected to Westfield in some way, whether it's a WHS alum, they work in town, maybe you're a parent of a student, live in town, whatever it is, to join this network of people who are willing to speak to our high school students about their college and or career experience. This way, if a student comes down and they're asking us about a college or something that we're not too familiar with, we can look on the database and see if there's any community members who wouldn't mind getting a call from us to talk a little bit about their experience in that area. We're also hoping to use this network to build our career programming. So we're giving it another big boost of recruitment this fall, and we're hoping to get people to sign up. I do think the people who have signed up already, we are very grateful for you. We are looking to build up the network a little bit more before we start using it. And we're definitely looking to have a diverse network of people. We want some people who maybe didn't take a traditional route and are still successful. That's what we're looking for. So please, if you know anyone or are willing to sign up, this flyer has the link that you can just click on to fill out the form. It's on the WHS Counseling website. And that's it for my program. Thank you so much.
Any questions from board members? Okay, we'll just work our whole way. We'll just work right around. We'll start with CJ.
First, I wanted to thank you. That was a really great presentation. I learned a lot here, and I love seeing all the different tiers and the different programs you have. I just have one quick question. On your Tier 2 counseling page, you mentioned that you're obligated by law and ethical standards to report and refer a case when a person's welfare is in jeopardy. Could you just expound a little bit upon what welfare in jeopardy means?
Sure. So if we have any suspicion that a child is either being abused or neglected, or under the influence of drugs or alcohol, if we are under any suspicion that there could be harm to a child, then we're obligated to make that report. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Thank you, Rob. First of all, I want to echo thank you, not only for a great presentation, but for all the great work you and the department have done, especially since you've taken over. I see it as a board member, and I see it as a parent. I just want to say thank you. It is seen and appreciated.
Thank you.
I have can I use yours? Is that okay? Is that better? Sorry for that dissonance. I have two questions for you. The first, I'm trying to understand, I really like the tier, I didn't know about MTS applying in counseling, and I'm trying to also understand percentages of time and effort and whether or not that's increased and decreased in certain areas. So right now it's MT1 that gets the broadest group of people, MT2 medium, and MT3 is a smaller. And I'm wondering in terms of the percentage of time and effort and at different levels, like is it different, this could be answered in terms of elementary versus intermediate versus high school. I'm wondering, and this is my first question eventually, is Is there, has there been a shift in the amount of effort for these different tiers over the time? Even though you've only been here for a few years, I would imagine you've seen some things, and I'd love to hear your perspective. And I guess what I want to understand is, do you feel that that it's tantamount to the amount of staffing that you have to be able to accommodate any of those shifts over time?
But in the entire world, school counselors probably saw a shift in their time since COVID, going more towards the tier 3. Lots of crisis response and lots of high needs needing consultation and referral. So we've definitely seen that here as well, and probably everywhere. So I think that's why it was so important that we added the additional counselors the other year, because anyone who's maybe been in the district for a while can probably vouch to the fact that there wasn't a lot of that school-wide programming, services that met the needs of all the students happening, because the counselors were so tied up with the tier 3 and the crisis response. So I think now we're back to balancing out, since we do have that additional staffing. Of course, we could always use more, but I do think we're on the right path, at least, to being able to balance out the tiers and make sure we're also giving enough time and energy to tier 1 and even tier 2, because tier 3 still, we have all these great plans in one day, and then suddenly there's a crisis and that counselor's tied up. So
yeah, that's what I'm wondering,
happen.
if it's like an 80-20 thing where 80% of the resources are being kind of put to 20% of the people through tier 3 interventions. And I'm just wondering if that's directionally correct. I know you don't have exact
I think
numbers,
it's truly hard to say. Every day is completely different in the life of a school counselor. There are some days where we're able to keep our schedule just as planned. We do all our senior meetings. We get out there to Thursday table talk. There's another day where suddenly we're in our office dealing with a crisis all day, and we have to ask other counselors to cover for us with whatever else we had planned. So I think it's hard to answer, because it varies by counselor, day, student. And there's some students who can be in crisis one day, but then the rest of the year are not. So it's kind of hard to answer the question.
Okay.
But a lot of our time is taken up with tier 3 and crisis response and consultation and referral, a lot.
Okay. And then my second question, it's not a question, I wanted to say that it's great that we're doing all of these college counseling events, and I will be there at them and look forward to learning more. I just want to mention that on November 14th at 7 p.m., SPED is having a roundtable for special education search for college. I know that that's separate from what you guys do, and it's something that it's programming that we're providing. I hope that down the road it's something that the counseling department would consider providing, and I really hope you guys can be there, because I think you would add a tremendous amount of value. Maybe, I don't know, do we still give CLC credits for attendance, Dr. Weissman? No? CLC credits, are they available if people attend roundtables? Not for that? Okay.
We don't need credits to come.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you again.
Yes.
All right, I have just one question. So more a question. The question I get from a lot of parents is that the school day, especially for for upperclassmen, is packed in. A lot of people spending a lot of time back and forth between classes, and a lot of parents ask me, well, how easy is it for students to get a hold of their counselors? Sort of what's the process for coming in? So if you wouldn't mind just expanding on that, like, are you able to drop in, utilization of free periods, that sort of thing, I think would help students kind of plan their day a little bit.
Definitely. So we have an open door policy, which means at any time, any student can come on down. Will their counselor be available? We don't know. So the way it works is that we are on a pretty strict calendar at the high school. So starting right now through Teachers Convention, Thanksgiving-ish, the counselors are booked back-to-back with senior meetings. So they are spending a lot of their energy making sure the seniors are doing what they need to do to plan for life after high school. And then we move into freshman meetings. So then we make sure that the counselors are checking in on the freshmen before the holidays. So as you can imagine, that's a short amount of time to see a lot of students. So they're pretty much booked back to back then. We get back from winter break and they start junior post-secondary planning meetings, which are long, hour-long meetings where the parents and guardians are invited in with their child. So it's a big deal. The parents have taken off work and taken a vacation day to come to this meeting. So it's hard. The counselors are really stuck on a schedule with that. They cannot be flexible when parents have taken off work to be there. So we're pretty much booked back to back then, leading up to scheduling in March, where we meet with every single student and have a scheduling meeting with them for the next year, other than seniors. And then we do the sophomore meetings after that. So as you can see, the counselors are often in pre-scheduled meetings to make sure that they meet with every single student and give them the time they need. So there is a chance that if you come down to the counseling center and ask for your counselor, they're going to be in a meeting and they won't be able to see you. What our secretaries, who are wonderful, will tell you at the front is that either they can leave a note for the counselor saying they were there, can you call me down when you can, and the counselor will absolutely call them down that same day. Or they'll say, if you're more comfortable, if you don't want to be called down, shoot your counselor an email and schedule an appointment. And the counselor will absolutely give them an appointment time where they'll be there waiting for them. But oftentimes students come down and they're happy to wait. They sit in our lounge, and if it's a free period, obviously, they're allowed to wait for the counselor to see if they become available. If they are in an academic course, we do, or an elective, or if they're in a course, we do everything that we can to encourage them to go back to class unless it's an emergency. So while we will never say you can't come down, we do encourage you to come down during that free period, during lunch, everything like that, so that you don't miss valuable instruction. But of course, if it's an emergency, no rules apply, and we're available to you. And if your school counselor is in a closed door meeting, we have student assistance counselors or other counselors who are there to talk to you, if that answers your question.
So you guys are a little busy is what you're saying. Perfect.
Yeah, just an explanation to why sometimes they're not available.
No, I appreciate that. So while you were talking, I booked my college and career jumpstart. Hopefully everybody else will do the same. So
Great.
unless there are any other questions, I want to thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
I know you do a lot during the day, and I really appreciate you spending some time your evening with us. So thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Mike Beery from FKA and Patty Ramos, our school business administrator, to join me in our next presentation to discuss the facilities project applications that are on the agenda this evening, leading us towards our April 2025 referendum. The presentation that you're seeing on the screen is also posted on the district website and really represents a culmination of work that has transpired over the last year, if not more. The work that you see is also indicative of the feedback that we have been gathering over the last 12 months, whether it be from members of the Board of Education, administration, the community, whether it be through surveys, whether it be through committee meetings, or just through reviews and conversations about what we're doing and where we're going. So that what we see this evening is really a refinement of those conversations into projects and proposals that will hopefully make their way onto a ballot come April. The presentation is also one that has been shared in two venues so far. At the April 28th board retreat, the Board of Education had a preview of this presentation as we presented the most up-to-date plans at that time, but we also have since then shared the presentation with members of the Referendum Community Advisory Committee, and in doing so, we were able to provide them not only with the preview, but also get feedback on what they've seen. So that every step of the way, we are trying to make sure that we are able to share with the public, the general public, the same information that we've shared with the various stakeholder groups to ensure that everyone's receiving the same information at appropriate times. So this evening, we're going to talk about the roadmap to the referendum, how we start at our journey last year and how we will hopefully make our way through this year to April 2025, when the voters of the school district will have a chance to vote on the proposals. We also will have a overview by our district architect, an architectural firm, FKA Architects, so that they can present their proposals and facility needs analysis that has gone into the presentation this evening. Patty Ramos, our school business administrator, will also provide a financial review, really to give everyone a sense of not only what it is that we're looking at from a facility standpoint, but how that translates into dollars and cents, the tax impact it has on the community, and the obligations we'd be looking for to pay this off through the issuance of a bond. We also want to be able to underscore that the financial tax impact data that we are going to provide is for illustrative purposes only. As you'll hear this evening, there's a lot of variables that go into the final numbers, but we also recognize people want to know how much is this going to cost me? I want to at least have an idea. So we do want to be mindful of that and respond accordingly. And then last but not least, as I mentioned before, we've gotten a lot of feedback. We've gotten a lot of questions. So we do want to include some frequently asked questions because at the end of the presentation, although we're not going into a lot of these details, they still remain as burning questions, and we want to make sure that we try and preempt those questions as much as possible, and certainly speak about the next steps. As we've done in the past, this presentation this evening is just the starting point of the ongoing conversations and discussions we'll have over the next several months leading up to April 2025. But we certainly want to launch this school year off right with this presentation to keep everyone excited, as excited really as we are for what's ahead. Now, just as a visual, once again, a Mary Ann McGann special, this visual represents really our path forward to get us to the point in which we have the ability to bring to the taxpayers a referendum proposal that is responsive to the needs of the district, to the needs of the community, and certainly representative of all of the goals and objectives that you've heard, not only through our strategic plan, but over the years. So when you look at this roadmap, you'll see that we started, the starting point here says September of 2023. The truth of the matter is we've been talking about this for years, well before my arrival, but certainly since my arrival, talking about the potential and possibility to present to the community a large-scale facilities referendum, because we recognize that the facility needs of our buildings could not be accommodated simply through an annual operating budget, or even through savings into our capital reserves, maintenance reserves, or other permissible reserve accounts. The truth of the matter is, given the size of our district, given the breadth and depth of our needs, a large-scale referendum was certainly going to be in order. So last year, when we brought on FKA Architects as our architect of record for the district, we began a district-wide walkthrough of all the buildings in this district. That means we went from basements to roofs, we went from inside to outside, opening up every door in every classroom to see what's inside. Kind of scary to find what we saw, but also very eye-opening and important to recognize both the needs and opportunities that were presented to us. And as that was ongoing over the course of the year, we can't forget that in October of 2023, as a Board of Education, as an administration, and as a community, we approved the development of a 2023-2028, a 5-year strategic plan that highlighted our goals and objectives for the next 5 years. And included in those goals and objectives was a very clear goal around finance and facilities, making sure that we were not only projecting out our needs, planning for that, but also explicitly committing to putting forth this referendum. So everything that you see represented this evening is also commensurate with the goals and objectives of our strategic plan. Over the course of the year, the facility and program needs continued through the spring, at which time our architects then consolidated those needs into a plan and a presentation of everything. We also reached out to our community, invited anyone who was interested to join us as members of a community advisory committee so that they too could participate and have their voice heard as we develop and review these proposals in order to ensure that they are responsive to the needs of our communities, not just based upon what the administration thinks, or the board thinks, or just any particular individual stakeholder group, but recognizing that as a school community, the diverse voices would want to be represented. So in soliciting volunteers, we asked anyone who is interested, if you're able to join us for those 3 meetings, we'd love to have you. And the resulting committee consisted of over 60 members of our community who signed up. Over the course of the 3 meetings, we probably had anywhere between 40 to 60 members show, which really contributed to the richness of the discussions in the breakout groups, but added to the feedback that has resulted in what you see this evening. So in May and June, we had those community advisory meetings, and then in June, we also launched our thought exchange in order to crowdsource the feedback from our community about what our priorities should be as we continue to pare down our proposals. Over the summer, the architect, the administration considered all the feedback that we received, also used the opportunity to take the plans and reviewed with our school level and department level administrators each of the site plans to determine what exactly we needed, what exactly we were going to use each of these spaces for, and what we were missing or what was not necessary. Given all the needs and all the wants of the district, we recognized that we couldn't do it all. So this proposal truly represents the needs of our district based upon the feedback and based upon the priorities as I've described. So that through the summer into August, the proposals that were initially developed in the spring were pared down to the presentations that you see this evening. As I mentioned, on August 28th, the Board of Education received a preview of these proposals, as did the advisory committee meeting that took place last Monday. All of that brings us to where we are this evening. This evening, we are going to not only hear about the presentations, but the Board of Education has the opportunity now to vote on these projects. And I want to be clear that the vote on the projects is a step on the path to the referendum. It does not represent the final decisions about what's going into the referendum, but in order to consider any project for a public vote, the New Jersey Department of Education requires that we submit our project applications to the state for their review, for their approval, and also for their ability to calculate any debt service aid that our projects would be eligible for, and thus help inform our fiscal liabilities and responsibilities for bringing these projects to fruition. It's also important to note, as you'll probably hear multiple times this evening, that our proposals, as they are presented to the State Department of Education, if they do not obligate us to put them forth as a referendum question, they do still afford us the opportunity to, down the road, launch these through any other means. So if we do choose not to include all of these proposals, and we choose to reserve some of these projects for use through capital reserve expenditures or other maintenance expenditures, we would have the ability to do that. And also through the New Jersey Department of Education's review and approval of those applications, that just means that we have one less step that we'd have to go through to make those things happen. So again, just to reiterate, this evening's vote is to approve the submission of the projects that you're going to see this evening to the Department of Education for their review, for their approval, and for their calculation of debt service aid, which, as you see in January 2025, we hope to have that feedback back. We certainly expect to have it, so that by February, we'll be able to make those final determinations about what would constitute our April 2025 referendum proposal, what questions, how many questions, what would be what each of those questions would consist of, and also the fiscal implications, the final fiscal implications that we would be able to calculate now with all of the data that we have available to us based upon the feedback of the Department of Education. And then certainly with those final determinations made, that would bring us into a very busy late winter, early spring, where we would engage in a very comprehensive and exhaustive, both physically and information-wise, information campaign to make sure that our community is fully informed about what it is that we are presenting for their consideration. It's also important to note that what you don't see here in a referendum roadmap is what we are also doing as a school district is continuing to run the school district, which, by the way, means that during this entire time, we also have to build a budget, and we also have to prepare for our annual operating budget that is also going to be developed in the fall, presented and considered in the winter, and then presented into the spring, whether it be through a board approval and or a community approval for any items that may exceed the tax levy and therefore require an additional funding proposal. So a lot of moving parts, all intended to focus on the same area, which is improving our school district's opportunities to enhance the educational experiences for our students and certainly prepare us to be future ready in any way, shape, and form that the educational landscape evolves. So, real quick, I just want to highlight some of the feedback that we received through our community advisory committees and through the feedback that we received from our community thought exchange. Over the first two meetings, you'll see here some of the feedback that took place in the various activities that our community engaged in really highlighted some common themes. Those themes may be surprising to you, may not be surprising to you, but you'll notice that full-day kindergarten certainly was prominent as a theme that had come up on many occasions. We also talked about making sure that our schools and our school buildings were accessible for both students and staff in the community. We also wanted to make sure that in all these proposals, we talk about the expansion of space in order to accommodate program, but the astute observation is, well, then how are we going to fill those programs? There's going to have to be a need and a consideration for additional staffing, which is absolutely going to be part of the proposals moving forward. But there again lies the difference between a regular operating budget and additional funding proposals versus a referendum. Referendum will handle the capital and building expenses. There's also common themes regarding just the acknowledgement that our facilities are in serious need of repair. In order to make sure that we keep up with our aging facilities, we need to make sure that we take the time to invest in our facilities so that we can ensure that our facilities are updated, safe, modern, and functional. In the next advisory committee meeting in June, we continue to unpack some of the feedback. We continue to digest and reflect on some of the conversation that had happened. But again, continuing to ask people, based upon what you heard last time and what you've started to think about, what else are you thinking about? What are we missing? What do we need to focus on? So once again, the focus on not just full-day kindergarten, but also recognizing that the infrastructure, our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, our bathrooms, plumbing, technology, security, all of those things represent needs that our buildings are calling for in order to ensure that we take care of things that may have not received the attention that they needed as of late, but certainly will require attention in the not too distant future. So oftentimes people ask, well, what happens if we don't do this now? Well, unfortunately, our heaters don't necessarily want to listen. Sometimes the aging facilities don't want to listen, and things start to break. And no matter what, we are still obligated to fix those. We are still obligated to provide safe and secure and healthy learning environments for our students. So this is our way to be more proactive in addressing them rather than waiting for things to break and then scrambling to address them. Also, with regards to full-day kindergarten, the conversations dug deeper into what options we had, and really through the conversations, the discussions always ended on a focus on full-day kindergarten through a neighborhood schools model. So currently we have a early learning center in Lincoln Elementary School that houses our pre-K and our half-day kindergarten program. The options to consider expansion really ranged from looking at how we can potentially use existing spaces, can we expand Lincoln? Can we add on perhaps to the intermediate school to alleviate some of the spaces at the elementary schools to move kindergarten over? Or can we look at creating neighborhood model schools for our elementary students in grades K through 5? And through the feedback that we received, that was the predominant theme that came out, that was the desirable model for a variety of educational reasons, for resource consolidation reasons, and also just keeping in mind the fewer transitions that our students would have to have as they progress through our grade levels. We also look at the accessibility and opportunities to support our students with disabilities to ensure that they have the ability to continue to maintain their educational learning experiences in district whenever possible. And seeing that as a priority among all the things that you've seen on these two slides factored into much of the decision-making that you'll see in the subsequent slides. And then last but not least, we had our thought exchange. Our thought exchange was that crowdsourcing proposal that we asked anyone to chime in on and really answer a simple question. What are some things you would most like to see in a facilities referendum in order to support the success of our students? Recognizing that any word that you choose there may mean something different to different people. So we want to make sure that when we use thought exchange, it affords people the opportunity not only to share their thoughts, but also to give feedback as to whether or not they agree or not the thoughts that other people rate as well. So in doing so, we have the ability to, again, get feedback, multiply that feedback based upon the ratings, and not surprising, you start to see those similar themes arise again. Safe, clean, and modern environments, refreshing our bathrooms and our schools, improving indoor air quality, providing dedicated classrooms for music and art instruction, once again, providing safe and accessible schools, and no surprise, full-day kindergarten. The themes that you see represented here is just an indicator of when we ask for feedback. Sometimes the feedback is asked at a time when things are steady. Nothing has sort of erupted that has prompted any eyebrows to raise. And then there are other times where we may have a roof leaking, or we may have mold show up in a classroom, and that becomes top of mind. So when we look at the data, we are mindful of the current context. We're mindful of what you see on the left versus what you see on the right. What you see on the left represents the feedback and the word cloud that's generated when certain words appear in comments. And the larger the words, the greater number of comments that those words appeared in. Whereas when you look at the one on the right, that shows the rating of the words in the thoughts. So when thoughts are rated, and those rated thoughts range from 1 to 5, you have the ability to then measure the value of those thoughts based upon the ratings of others. So when you look at the number of comments on the left, you see that at the time, mold and leaking roofs were concerned. When you look at that same data, but how people en masse were rating those thoughts, we see, again, space, kindergarten, facilities, even fields make their way into the priority list here. As you'll hear both tonight and in the months ahead, we can't do everything. We will do all of our best to try and address everything we can, but we will look at all the resources and opportunities we have to do so. The referendum is just one. We've mentioned the operating budget and the various reserve options as other resources. So we look forward to continuing to highlight how we are exercising all of those options available to us so that everyone can see the growth and the improvements that are taking place. So at this time, I'd like to invite Mike Beery to join us in continuing the presentation and walking us through his facilities analysis as he and his colleagues conducted over the last 10 to 12 months.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Good evening, everyone. Okay, the facilities analysis that we had prepared was broken down into two areas. One is the facility needs, and one is the space needs. Facility needs cover what need to be done to a building to provide the modern improvements. And you can see the list here of the items that were identified in this proposal, the top one being HVAC improvements. So this includes classroom air conditioning throughout and air conditioning in the intermediate and high school gyms, major spaces, as well as a building management system that would be installed in conjunction with all of that work. It also includes renovations to the original or old restrooms throughout the buildings for accessibility and modern finishes. It includes a repurposing of the intermediate and high school locker rooms and renovating those spaces for better use. It includes media center renovations at the intermediate and high school levels and the renovation of the auditorium at Westfield High School. So I'll just show you on the next slide some examples of some of the improvements. This is a typical unit ventilator in a classroom. This one happens to be in Roosevelt. Many of these, this is common throughout the schools in the district. All the classrooms have a unit ventilator that is the primary heat source and ventilation source of the classroom. Many of them are 50, 60 original years old. So this project would replace those with a new and modern unit that would also provide air conditioning, increased energy efficiency, and increased filtration capability. In the major spaces, gymnasiums, you can see in this slide in the ceiling is the heating and ventilating units, which were original to the building. This happens to be a shot of Edison. Those heating and ventilating units would be replaced with a ducted system that would be installed in between the roof structure in conjunction with a pair of rooftop units that would provide heating, ventilation, and air conditioning to the major spaces. The reason for the two units is for redundancy of the system. Again, these units much more efficient than what you've had before and also have the capability of increased enhanced filtration. Restrooms throughout the district, some are original, some are very old. These would be renovated to provide new, modern, durable finishes and also accessibility to those spaces. This is a picture of the locker room at Edison. In both intermediate schools and the high school, there's a lot of space within the locker rooms that is just underutilized or not utilized anymore. So you can see some of the pictures here. This is Roosevelt. Old shower areas being used as storage because they're not used anymore as showers. Lockers at the high school, also being used for storage. So these are some examples of intermediate and high school type lockers for other projects that were done. So these rooms would be renovated for modern locker rooms and reconfigured for, at the high school level, both PE lockers and team locker space. At the intermediate schools and the high schools, media center renovations are also included. This would renovate these old media centers into something like this that is new and modern, bright, durable finishes, flexibility of the furnishings, and also the arrangement of the room so that it promotes different uses throughout the space. So you could have group projects, you could have individual study, you could also have areas that work for additional space for students for block scheduling. So those are just some examples of what today's media centers look like. And of course, the auditorium at the high school would be renovated for new finishes, modern sound, audio, lighting, and seating, and accessibility. These are some examples of modern high school auditoriums. Kindergarten renovation. So in several of the schools, when we show you the work that happens at each school, you'll see some classrooms being renovated. These are the classrooms with the restroom inside them that can be converted to the kindergarten. This happens to be an example of one, which could be renovated into a new modern kindergarten with bright finishes, accessible furniture, and durability. So the space needs highlights are listed here. At the elementary level, art and music was important to have space for at each school. Small group instruction space for each school was severely lacking or being conducted in a space that really shouldn't be used for small group instruction. Support services in each school. Space for staff to come to each school, to have a home instead of having to travel between buildings. Space for increasing enrollments, expansion of the special education program at the high school, and of course, the full-day kindergarten neighborhood model at each school. So the next slides will show each school and the proposed improvements at each school to accommodate the space needs and renovation needs. So this is Franklin. An addition at Franklin would be located in the current blacktop playground area in between the wings of the building, shown in blue above. And the playground area here would be relocated to the field area across from the ball field. Also at Franklin, a drop-off loop would be constructed on the side of the building, which would also include accessible rampways to the front entrance. So here's a floor plan of Franklin. It's a little hard to see maybe in the slide here, but the light blue indicates a renovated space in the existing building, and the dark blue indicates new construction. So here you can see the floor plan of the new construction that happens in between the two wings of the school. And this includes space for the kindergarten, expanded multi-purpose room to accommodate the increased enrollment, because this is one of the larger schools in the district. It includes guidance, space for the small groups, and you can see a better depiction of the drop-off loop here. Second floor of Franklin, this is a two-story addition, so you can see the second floor here, which has additional classroom and small group instruction space, as well as the renovation of the existing restrooms. This is Jefferson. The addition at Jefferson would happen in the sort of notch of the V shape of the building. That would be the primary area where the classrooms would be, and then be a second addition to this building that would include a multi-purpose room towards the top of the slide. So here's the floor plan of that. You can see the multi-purpose room adjacent to the existing one for the increased capacity of the school. One of the challenges with this school was to re-front the main office on the main entrance. So right now there's a storage room and conference room between when you walk into the building and the main office. So this proposal would renovate the main office, so now the main office would look out at that front lobby. You can see the V-shaped addition in the notch of the existing building there, which contains the required classrooms and small group instructional space. I'll note on this addition does include 5 additional classrooms for the increased enrollment in this area. It also includes renovation of existing classrooms within the building. You can see on the lower side of the left wing there's 5 classrooms that are being renovated. They happen to be classrooms that already have a bathroom and are large enough to accommodate the state required size of a kindergarten classroom. So those 5 classrooms are slated to be renovated. McKinley, School has an addition to the right side. This would be a 3-story addition, which would align with the 3 stories of the school, less the media center level. Now, on the ground floor of the addition, this school, like McKinley like Jefferson, has a main office problem. The main office in McKinley is on the first floor. In order to get into it, you have to enter the building from a stair, which allows a visitor access to the entire building before being checked into the main office. So the question was, how could we solve that problem? So that problem is solved by moving the main office to the ground floor so that when somebody enters the building, they enter immediately adjacent to the main office. So the new addition would have the main office on the ground floor. Adjacent to that would be the nurse's office, which in the current McKinley shares this adjacent space to the existing undersized main office. So also on the ground floor level, we have an LLD kindergarten, and the 2 classrooms that are in the ground floor level that existing would be renovated into art and music. So it is a 3-story addition, so the second story which is the first floor, would include the kindergarten classrooms, and it would also renovate the old main office and principal's office into some small group instructional space. And then there'd be a 3rd floor for this addition, which would house the classrooms that were displaced by the 2 on the ground floor and 1 for the nurses on the ground floor. So that's McKinley. Tamaqua was a very straightforward addition. This is a 2-story classroom wing on the front of the building, so the proposed addition would be a 1-story on the back, kind of mirroring the 2-story in the front. And this 1-story addition would be designed so that it could accommodate a 2nd floor in the future if there were ever future plans for expansion. So this 1-story addition at Tamaqua simply runs a corridor parallel with the existing building to house the additional kindergarten classrooms and some small group instructional space. On the 2nd floor, we have some restrooms being renovated. Washington School has an addition towards the end of the shorter wing. And because we're expanding into what's now a playground in that area, the playground would be relocated. We're showing that happening at the upper right corner of the screen in a grassed area that exists there now. So this is the floor plan. Like Jefferson, we have some oversized classrooms here that we're renovating into kindergarten classrooms. Then the addition towards the top of the plan has the required classrooms, small group instructional space, and an art and music classroom in there. To the right side of the plan, there's an existing large space that's being used for small group instruction that's just subdivided with furniture partitions that would also be renovated to provide proper small group instructional space. At Wilson, the site is severely limited for an addition, so the concept for Wilson was to relocate 5 classrooms that are shown as renovated space here. These are the 5 special education classrooms. They would be relocated into Washington School, which would free up space inside of Wilson School to be able to accommodate the kindergarten classrooms that are needed. In Wilson also, restroom renovations and a conversion of a 2nd floor classroom to 2 LLD spaces. At Edison and Roosevelt, there are no additions planned. They're both renovation projects. So you can see on the right side of the plan is the gymnasium, and the two areas in blue are the current boys and girls locker rooms. So the locker rooms would be renovated and consolidated to one side of the gym. The other side of the gym would be small group instruction and classroom space. Again, renovations of the restrooms, and then the media center on the 2nd floor. Roosevelt, starting with the gym, just like Edison, we're renovating and reconsolidating the locker rooms to one side and renovating classroom and small group onto the other side. And of course, the media center and restrooms on the first, second, and third floors. At the high school, an addition is proposed for the front of the building, shown in blue. Also, at the high school, a drop-off loop is shown in the front, which would connect the three entrances to the building, the auditorium, the main entry, and the gym, and would make those accessible. Here you can see the floor plan of the high school, and I'll start in the middle. In the middle of the high school right now is the wood shop, which has difficulty being in the middle of the plan in terms of deliveries to the space and function. So the concept here was to locate the required additional space for support services right adjacent to the existing guidance area, which is currently in that location. So the current wood shop would be renovated into those support spaces. And then a new wood shop would be constructed in the addition towards the bottom left of the screen. So the new addition would also include not only the wood shop, but it would also include life skills in an MD classroom and autism program out there in the front of the building. On either side of the gym, the locker rooms would be renovated so that there's appropriate space for PE and team lockers and the trainer all on ground level. So right now, the current boys' locker room spans 2 floors. It's on the ground floor and the second floor. The trainer's also on the second floor, which creates an obvious problem for accessibility. Also on this floor, we have the renovation of the auditorium. And then on the second floor, we have the renovation of the media center. And then in the lower left area, the second floor of the boys' locker room would be renovated into small group instructional space. And finally, at the high school, renovation of the restrooms on all floors. Okay. So this is the projected costs broken down by the facility needs and the space needs. I guess you can see this closer on your screen. I'm going to come closer so I can read it. So the total of the facility needs summary is about a little over $98 million. The total of space needs is $127,800, which makes a total of $225,900,000.
Okay, I think this is where I jump in to the presentation now. So on that pricing sheet, we have broken it out even further with the space needs. We broke out the space needs versus full-day kindergarten, and you'll also see on there the HVAC needs, building systems versus accessibility, which is the renovation of the restrooms, and then educational adequacy, which would be the renovation of the media center and the auditorium. So all of that is broken out, and it is on the website for anyone who wants to look at it. So now we'll go into the financial recap. As Dr. Gonzalez had mentioned earlier, we do have to go to a bond referendum for this because of the size of the cost. We would not ever be able to build this into our 2% tax levy cap. The size of the projects are too large. I will say that during this process, we met FKA architects Mike Bieri, Dr. Weissman, Dr. Bolton, and myself this summer, met with every principal. And we initially had the projects coming out to about $270 million. And we were able to go through with the principals every classroom, every space, and scale some of it back, and then also added on, based on our advisory committee meetings, we added in the renovation of the bathrooms throughout the district, because that was something that came up in each meeting and also came up in our community groups. So we wanted to make sure that was addressed. So again, a bond referendum is something that districts have to do. We have to go out to the public just as we do with our second question, or our question for our regular budget to go over the 2%. We also have to do one for any bond referendum, which would be would probably be a 30-year bond we would look to do for this because of the amount of it. So debt service like Ray said, we're sending all of these projects down to the state to see how much debt service the state will give us. The debt service offsets the bonds. They pay each year off of that. So we have to issue the full amount of the bonds, and then the state will give us a percentage of that funding back. If we choose not to do some of these projects, it's important to note we will not receive that debt service aid. If we pay for these projects through capital reserve, any other funding within this, our own budget, we lose that 40%. And the debt service aid is calculated as 40% of building renovations at cost. So everything that you saw there with the bathrooms, it'll be 40% of cost. For new construction, which is our additions for kindergarten and our space needs, it's 40% of $138 for adequacy. So the state first has to determine if they think that we need the space. If they think we need the space, they came up with $138 per square foot as the cost of construction many, many, many years ago, and they've never changed it. So it comes out to be about $55 that they would give us per square foot. The actual cost of construction right now is about $700 a square foot. So as you can see, there will be a big difference between the two. The reason that we're sending all of the projects down is we do believe most of our renovation, if not all of it, will receive the full 40% of funding. But we are taking a conservative approach, as you'll see on the next slide, when we go through our debt service and our projections, because we don't know how much we're going to get until it comes back in January. And right now, debt service is its own fund for accounting purposes. We have the general fund, which is our 2% levy cap, and then debt service is its own fund that's not voted on each year because it's already voted on through a referendum. So to give you an example of how debt service aid works, in this year's budget, in the 24-25 operating budget, the debt service tax levy is $1.9 million, and the debt service aid is $777,000. The two of them together combine to how much we owe in principal and interest this year on our bonds, which then the debt service aid that we received this year equates to 29% of those projects from the past. So just to give you an idea of how it'll look each year. And the state gives us that debt service aid amount each year over the course of the bond. So if we issue the bonds for 30 years, we'll have that aid for the next 30 years. The costs included in a referendum would be architect fees, legal fees, the bond issuance, construction management fees, obviously the construction costs, engineering, and furniture costs to furnish all of the rooms. The cost that will not be included, that will have to be included in a future operating budget, would be any staff or consumables needed to operate those buildings. So for instance, the space needs, if we're moving staff that are currently housed at central office or in other locations, we'll just move those staff to the new locations. There won't be a cost associated with that. But for full day kindergarten, we do not have staffing for that. We would move kindergarten teachers that we currently have, but they only are for the part-time program we offer. And we don't have a full kindergarten right now. We would anticipate the number would pretty much double if we offered full day kindergarten. So I estimate right now that that cost would be somewhere between $4 and $5 million. We're still working on it, but we do, as administration, have a spreadsheet started. We are reviewing it internally to see what items we're missing, what needs to be accounted for. So as we progress through this, we can be very transparent with the public that there will be this referendum vote, and then in 2 to 3 years, there will be a vote to put the people in the buildings that we built. So they will have to once again vote for that. So the next slide. So this next slide, like Ray said, is just for illustrative purposes right now. We had our financial analyst, we have someone that does calculates all the bonds for us, and we broke it out starting at $175 million up to the $225 million. Because again, even if the state gives us 40% on this whole project, I will still have to bond the full $225 million. So for illustrative purposes, we took 20% of debt service aid, because we don't know what we're getting yet. The average home in Westfield assessed at $812,000. So you can see the average annual tax impacts and average monthly tax impacts at the bottom of the slide. So if we issued bonds for $200 million, the average tax impact would be $76 a month. If we issued for $225 million, it would be $83 a month. Again, that's only assuming a 20%. It's assuming an estimated interest rate of 4.5%, which I spoke to our financial advisor the other day, and she said rates are coming in better now than that, but she's still using that as a guide. Obviously, everything would be finalized by the end. And again, we wouldn't have to issue all these bonds at the same time. They would progress as the project progressed, determine on the market. Obviously, if the market goes back to 2%, we'll issue the bonds. We won't wait on it. But if the advisor believes that there might be a benefit in waiting and issuing bonds in pieces over the course of the project, then we would do it that way. We do have that flexibility, as long as we don't bond more than what the total amount was. Another question that I've received a lot is, what if you do this project and you ask us for this money and then you go out to bid and it comes in for less? I only bond what I need. The rest, this is my borrowing capability, but if all the projects come in for less, I won't bond for it. And if I do, the money that I get would go back to the taxpayers. There's no option to use it for any other projects or anything else. I can only use it on the bond referendum that was voted for by the taxpayers. So I think that's about it.
So as mentioned, through the process, we've received common inquiries that we just captured a number of those FAQs in the next two slides. And I just quickly would like to run through them. The first, why is the district putting this facilities bond referendum before the voters? I think we've already mentioned time and time again that this proposal really addresses the critical infrastructure needs and truly ensures that we are maintaining our commitment to a safe and suitable learning environment. This is something that we know we can't push off and down the road, but we also recognize we are in a unique financial opportunity to take advantage of debt service that would be available to us. And as Patty mentioned, if we don't take advantage of that for these renovations, then we are responsible for the full 100% of the cost. Another question is it all or nothing? Can there be one ballot question for full-day kindergarten as an example and a second ballot question for other renovations? And the short answer is it can be broken into multiple questions, and we could, as a board and an administration, really present a proposal that gives the community the proper way to inform their decision-making so that they can make a decision that they believe is in the best interest of themselves as taxpayers, but also in our school district. So when we get the final ballot language in February of next year, we will share that information and really spend a large portion of our information campaign unpacking that for everyone. How is full-day kindergarten going to be incorporated into the referendum? As I mentioned before, various options were explored, but based upon the feedback that we received, the determination was made to propose adding and renovating space to each elementary school. So again, mentioning the existing pre-K K Center as well as our intermediate schools as potential opportunities for expansion. We recognize that from a cost perspective, there wasn't a great advantage or benefit, but educationally, the full-day K in each neighborhood school certainly provided great educational and resource benefits to our students. Then, of course, the question, well, if we go to full-day K, we have a bunch of kindergarten in Lincoln. What happens to Lincoln? Well, Lincoln is our pre-K K center, so by moving 5 kindergarten classrooms out of Lincoln, what that affords us is the opportunity to explore renovating some of those vacated classroom spaces to accommodate things such as art, music, library, and related services, as well as potentially expanding our pre-K programs if the need arises. So we would certainly continue to maintain Lincoln as a district learning facility, and it would house our pre-K program. As mentioned, if the full-day K proposal passes, how will the necessary additional staff be funded? And Patty had just mentioned that, but that is certainly something we don't want to gloss over and we don't want to rush through. We want to make sure that people know that if you are going to vote on a proposal to add full-day K, that you understand that that proposal is a commitment in two phases. One is to build or renovate the classrooms, and two is an addition to an operating budget that would then fund the staffing. So one would be referendum related and the other would be operating budget. Another common question that comes up is that's a lot of work to be done at one time. How would you manage construction? How would construction be managed to minimize the disruption to learning? And certainly that would be something that would come way down the road, as there would be many steps to get us there that take us from board approval to community approval to then moving to the design, bidding, and construction. During any development of a construction plan, we would put in comprehensive timelines and protocols to ensure that we minimize disruption to learning. We look at scheduling major work during school breaks, or after school, or during the summer months whenever possible. And we look at phasing construction in a way that allows us to ensure that safety protocols would protect our students and staff so that they could continue their learning activities in safe and uninterrupted environment. And then last but not least, what is the plan for educating the public? Without a doubt, the district plans to educate the public through a comprehensive outreach campaign. We are very familiar, as we have experienced the last 2 years of public votes on our budget, in ensuring that our community forums, our social media feeds, our print, digital, and in-person opportunities all represent an opportunity for us as a school district to really clarify and answer all the questions about what it is that we are asking of the taxpayers. 3 years ago, when we decided as a Board of Education and Administration to partner with the community in order to move our district forward, that allowed the community to have a voice and a vote in the future of our school district. That voice and vote will continue through the foreseeable future for our operating budget in order to manage our needs in alignment with the increasing costs of doing business in today's day and age, but also recognizing that this facilities proposal far exceeds what an operating budget would be. So once again, that partnership is not one-sided, but in fact requires that the district present something that is responsive to the community's needs, responsible from a fiscal and fiduciary standpoint, but also requires the public to agree to that and certainly cast a vote to make the final decision. So the next steps, as you see listed here, and as I had indicated earlier, bring us from today all the way through April, with the referendum proposals being voted on this evening. If and once approved, then getting sent down to the Department of Education for their review and approval. We will also use the opportunity to use our district website to create a referendum portal, so that information portal will house not only this presentation, but any information that we present publicly, so that if you are not able to attend any of our presentations or watch any of our presentations, you still have access to the same information that has been shared. Throughout the winter, we're also going to convene a community communications committee in order to make sure that we have the ability to answer as many questions as possible. We want to be responsive to the needs of the community. We want to anticipate as many questions as possible. And in order to do that, we want to hear from members of our community in order to address their questions. And then last but not least, as I mentioned over and over again, hopefully by April, you will all be able to recite this presentation with your eyes closed and in your sleep, because we want to make sure that everyone knows inside and out what it is we're asking, why we're asking, and why it's important. But most importantly, that will be formalized and finalized in February, followed by that information campaign to accompany not only our referendum, but our annual budget proposal, and then ultimately voted on in April 2025. The exact date has yet to be finalized, so stay tuned for that detail to come, but we'll certainly keep you posted. So I do want to thank all members of our community who have contributed to this presentation this evening, whether it be through your emails, through your voice in committee meetings, through your participation in thought exchange, through your constant engagement of our administration, our Board of Education, and certainly both in person and in the feedback that you share in any interaction that you have. We hear you. We are trying to do our best to respond and to provide you with the feedback that I think is representative of what our district needs, but certainly what our students deserve. So at this time, that concludes our presentation, but certainly Mike, Patty, and I are available for any questions from the board.
Everybody got that? Great. We'll start, same rotation. Go ahead, CJ.
And thank you. I wanted to thank the three speakers again. This was a great presentation. I had the chance to attend one of the community referendum meetings as well, and it was really responsive to the people who had gathered. I thought there were a lot of good ideas, and I think this is a nice distillation of a lot of those ideas. The one question I wanted to ask actually is for Patty. With respect to the issuance of a bond, say, to pay for these, are there any protocols in connection with refinancing as rates may hopefully adjust?
Yes, we are required by law to look at our current debt. I think it might be every 3 years, but we look at it every year. We have a company that does that for us, Phoenix Advisors. And if it drops to a level that would make sense, we would refinance.
Sure.
Thank you. I think this is in the right direction to avoid the noise from before. I also want to thank all three of you and Marianne, of course, and everybody who was involved. This is a very comprehensive and clear and most importantly, transparent. It's very good communication, and I'm glad to see that we're sharing this with the public. I have just two small questions. The first is for our architect. I just wanted to, and I know we discussed this when we met last time, but I was unclear what the resolution was here. For the high school and the wood shop and the special education classrooms, was that changed since we last met, or is it still, I'm sorry, I know you discussed it, but I was still a little confused.
Sure.
How is that going to be set up now?
So the plan that was on the screen tonight is the same one that we had presented before, with the wood shop in the lower corner, and above that in the plan are the life skills and MD rooms.
Okay, so
We'd have to look at soundproofing and things like that, like
yeah,
we had
I
talked
mean, I'm just
about.
worried about all the sensory issues that could be involved there. But thank you for clarifying that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And then also, you talked about support services as part of this moving to the different schools. So there'll be migration of different staff. What does support services mean? What types of resources are those?
So that's child study team.
Okay, so they're moving from Elm Street to the, okay.
Right, so the concept was that a lot of them are in Elm Street right now and travel between the schools.
Right.
So a place for, say, two counselors, a conference space that they can interact with visitors or
Okay, parents.
that kind of parents, that would be provided in each of the schools.
So are there any other types of support services as well, in addition to the child study team members that are also going to be moving into that more local model?
So there are, it will be people that are located at Elm Street. So occasionally there's behaviorists, speech, OT, PT that have space at our building because there's not enough space to provide them with a desk and a file cabinet as mandated by their contract under the union. So they do have space at central office that they come back to do work at. They would put them in the buildings, which would give them greater access to the students that they serve. They wouldn't have to come back and forth at all.
Okay. And can that space be used for providing services? Like, can PT be provided in those spaces, or is that really just office space? Can OT, can speech? Because right now it's kind of beg, borrow, and steal, especially at the elementary level. So I'm just trying to understand if this is like a flexible space or if this is space that is designated for
the
one.
CST offices would be office space with a conference table, but anything that would be OTPT would be where they could do their services too, in appropriate locations, where they'd also be able to sit. Because right now, we do have spaces, as you've probably noted throughout the district, that are not appropriately sized. There's too many staff in them, they're just not in an appropriate space right now to conduct the services. So the goal would be to have them in the room where they could stay and do their service.
And how are those spaces designated on the, that's
Tho-
what the-
Those are
the
called
arch-
SGIs in
Yeah.
the presentation that you saw.
Those are the SDIs?
Yeah.
SGI, small group
S-
instruction.
So it can be child study team services, it could be the Achieve team
ESL,
services, ESL, et cetera, anything, okay.
Right. They're just all called SGI, small group instruction.
We're not locking
SGI.
anything that particular in right now. We're just trying to designate enough space for how many people. That's why I had Dr. Weissman with me with the principals when we went over that this summer, to make sure that all the staff that we currently have or will need will fit somewhere in a building.
Gotcha. Thank you for explaining that. I apologize. I know we discussed it, but I did get a little bit confused, so thank you.
No problem.
Brendan?
So Patty, looking particularly at the state aid component of the presentation, the numbers you put up there about what debt service would look like to the average household, that was without debt service aid, correct?
That's with assuming a 20% debt service aid
Okay.
overall.
Yeah.
Because right now I got that from Phoenix Advisors. They said to use 20% until it's just a conservative amount until we know what would come
I mean,
in.
back of the envelope calculations, well, really back of the eyelid calculations as we're sitting here talking, it brings us in at like 21, 22% in a best case scenario. So,
Mhm. Yeah, so, and again, there's going to be many different things that come out over the course of this referendum, how many questions we have, how the questions are phrased, because renovations will be 40%, we believe, based on
yeah,
what we're
looking at
submitting.
about $50 million in a best case scenario from the state.
Yep,
So it's not often that Westfield's ever looking at $50 million in help from the
oh,
state.
that
so
will be
that's,
highlighted in every presentation that we do, over and over again.
Yeah.
Because I do realize it will be a big ask of the taxpayers, but to get that much money from the state to do it, because I will have to do this work at some point
Yeah.
during my tenure here. You saw the picture, that one picture of an HVAC unit. I'd like to say that's rare, it's not.
It's almost every classroom.
Yeah, and Brendan's been in all of them, so he went on all the tours. They're all about 60 to 70 years old. Sean can tell you the weather's going to start changing now, and the phone will start ringing. Some classrooms will be 85 degrees, others will be 60 degrees. It's just, we're doing the best we can.
And it is
To
hard
get
to
there.
find parts for manufactured units that
Extremely.
the company went out of business 45 years ago.
Yes. And the same with bathrooms. We dealt with leaks in bathrooms even over this summer that were not easy to repair, just because of the age of the bathrooms, where the pipes are located, what the pipes are made of, makes it all much more complicated than it needs to be.
The new space is the shiny object for everybody, but the renovations are really going to impact every single student in every single classroom district-wide. And
So, and our hope is, if this referendum passes, that we would be able to continue doing the work that we're started already this year. We renovated all the first grade spaces, and giving them a fresh coat of paint, hiding wiring, and just new furniture. And it's been a tremendous upgrade. Just walking through and hearing the teachers, their hesitation in the beginning of the summer with doing this project, and now their excitement on the space that they're in and what the ability they have with the furniture, and just getting that update. So I'm hoping by this referendum passing that it'll give us that opportunity to keep doing those type of projects, because there will be a lot more to do. We still have a lot more internal work to do, but if I can't fix the major, like HVAC and other things that are needed, small group areas, I'm gonna have to just keep pocketing money away for those projects, which is what has happened here in the past over and over again.
which, I mean, we couldn't pocket this kind of money to do this work, even if we wanted to. So Nobody likes going to the voters multiple times.
It
but
would
it's
again
just-
be kind of piecemeal. It would be, which is the worst building, which one are we having problems with, which heating system is completely going and I have to address it. That's the way it would be done. It would never be done on this kind of scale where everyone would get new at the same time.
Right.
And like you said, 40% paid by the state. It's very rare in Westfield that you'll get any kind of aid percentage like that back.
Thank you.
Okay. So you touched on a point that I wanted to make sure was clear. There's a couple of points I wanted to make sure came out just from the course of this process for all of us. The first is that the referendum is part of a bigger piece, right? It's a huge part of the puzzle, but it's still one piece of that puzzle. Being able to put this work toward the referendum means that we can use other facets of the budget to continue making other improvements. So a lot of the questions that I've gotten asked about this is, well, what about the things that aren't included in the referendum? What about things like fields? What about things like renovation of day-to-day classrooms, things of that nature? These are all things that have to be done. There is no more kicking any cans. We are out of road and out of cans, at this point. So by funding this referendum, it does not mean that, well, we're going to forget about the other stuff. It does not mean that there are not field improvements. Those are going on right now, thanks to a great staff, number one, and number two, the budget additions that we've had. We are setting up programs to get them ready for the space that we're going to have in large part because of the budget increases and the programming that we've done. We have capital funds that we are reserving to do some of those bigger projects like we've seen at Roosevelt this year. The Fab Labs, the band and performance spaces. These things are going on right now as we speak. We're not waiting for a referendum. We're doing what we can now, but we run the risk, if we don't start addressing these bigger things now, of having to fold these large items into a budget and into a process that is not designed for that and never has been, and it's part of the reason why we're here where we are. The other thing I want to mention is really a thank you to the board. We talked a lot about, the staff in the district have put in a ton of work on this, but, this is not the first time our board has seen things like this. Our board has been to, they've done the walkthroughs with the architects. I realize that climbing ladders is not my forte, as Mike and his colleagues realize, but we've walked through the buildings. We've seen literally the boiler rooms and the roofs, Brendan being the most brave among us for the roof part. We've been to community meetings. We have seen presentations of this in our, certainly in our committee meetings. So this has been a lot of work for a long time for our board members, regardless of how long we've served on it, quite frankly. And I really want to thank the board for putting as much time and effort as they have over here, because I know whatever vote we cast is a vote that the public can trust is becoming well-informed. And that it's important for us to provide the information, but it's equally as important for the board to be there to receive it. And that's what we've certainly seen. The last question I hear a lot is why now? The fact of the matter is, if not now, then when, right? We think of construction projects in 4 and 5 and 6 year terms, but 4 and 5 and 6 year terms is someone's entire high school career, is someone's entire middle school career, is an elementary school career. And every year we put this off, the effect is a butterfly effect of sorts, right? We lose 1 year now. It's not just 1 year of students that doesn't get to see this stuff. It's potentially a generation of students that don't get to see it. And we've done that for too long. We've done that for way, way too long. Every year we wait puts another group of kids seeing this stuff at their reunion, not on the first day of school. And we don't want to be there. So Ray talked about selling things. This will be the first of many sales pitches that I give on this as well. Because it's a project I know this board very much believes in. It's worked through, and I want to thank everyone for the time. All right, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Mike and team have been at a lot of long meetings and a lot of late nights, and we have a lot of trust in what you guys have put together. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. So next, we made him wait a while. So now it's time for the report from our high school student representative. James, the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is James Furr, and I am excited to serve as this year's student representative on the Board of Education. I'm currently a senior at Westfield High School, where I have the honor of serving as Student Government Vice President of Communications, co-president of the Community Service Club, co-president of the National Honor Society, vice president of the Spanish Club, a transition leader, and am on the track team. I feel that immersing myself in my school through activities and clubs will help me accurately represent the student body's interests at these meetings. This year, when students returned to Westfield High School, they got a glimpse of some of the traditions and attributes that make the school so special. On September 4th, the class of 2028 was officially welcomed to the high school during their freshman orientation. After listening to speeches from both the SGA president, Luke Renshaw, and the school's principal, Marius Fendis, upperclassmen from both the National Honor Society and the school's transition program gave the freshmen a very informative and detailed tour of the high school. The goal of this event was to help the incoming freshmen feel welcomed and safe in our school, as well as giving them a chance to meet students they may not have previously known. Despite school starting just a few weeks ago, our community here at WHS has jumped right into the full swing of things. High's Eye will be releasing the first edition of their award-winning student paper this Friday, and our school's morning news station, Blue Devil TV, began their 4th season. Although many great constants in Westfield High School remain, some significant changes have been made since last year. We have 2 new assistant principals, former social studies teacher Brett Curtis and former Edison assistant principal Jacqueline Spring, who are hitting the ground running with new ideas to improve the WHS community. Additionally, Westfield's athletic program is off to a strong start. We have welcomed a new head football coach, Matthew Anzel, who is hoping to lead the Blue Devils to a great season after a big win against Elizabeth last Saturday at home. Westfield is always extremely enthusiastic for our sports teams, and while there have only been a few weeks of games, our student section has been showing up nonstop, ready to show their support. Senior journalism students have also been reporting on varsity games for High's Eye Sports, along with coverage from our Instagram page, Dubfield Athletics, which posts game locations, times, themes, and post-game results. With the start of the school year also comes the return of dozens of school-sanctioned clubs led by our student body. One of SGA's top priorities this year is to streamline the club system to ensure that clubs can make the biggest impact possible in our community. There will be a meeting this Thursday, September 19th, with leaders from each club to go over the guidelines for clubs this school year, as well as expectations for Back to School Night and Club Day. We will be generating a list of all the current clubs available at our school, as well as posting it to the WHS website. Next Thursday, September 28th, will be Back to School Night. Clubs, sports teams, and other organizations can reserve a table in Cafeteria B for Back to School Night. There, they can sell merchandise and food to generate funds to be used for their organization. Back to School Night is a great way to get their clubs out in front of students and parents, and is a historically worthwhile opportunity for clubs to fundraise and self-promote. The next day, Friday, September 29th, will be the annual WHS Club Day. During all lunch periods 4 through 8, clubs will be in the Dr. Nelson Courtyard with posters and other information about their clubs. This is a great opportunity for freshmen to get involved in the school. It is so important for them to understand WHS for all of its great aspects, including the many clubs for people of all interests. Throughout the year, SGA has hopes to raise school spirit for all grades. Frequently throughout the year, there will be spirit days in which students dress up according to a theme. Last Wednesday, our school honored the lives lost on 9/11, 23 years ago. We gave out beaded necklaces in our country's colors to honor and remember the sacrifices all of the brave men and women made to help others on such a horrific day. Another means of raising school spirit and strengthening our school community is through monthly activity periods. Last Thursday was our first activity period through an extended homeroom. This activity period allowed students to hear from administration all the guidelines and procedures that the school has, as well as changes that are being made. Next month's activity period will be run by the SGA for our annual student versus staff volleyball game to help raise money for breast cancer awareness. Students will compete in their own tournament to determine which 2 teams will be lucky enough to play against the teachers. Students not playing will either be watching from the gym or in their homerooms, live streamed through BDTV. Students watching via live stream will be decorating their classroom doors to promote breast cancer awareness as well. SGA will judge the doors, and the top 3 winning homerooms will receive a bagel breakfast. Overall, the school has been filled with energy and excitement in anticipation for another great school year. We cannot wait to see all that WHS will accomplish over the course of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Much appreciated. Let's move next to our board committee reports. We'll start with curriculum instruction and assessment. Sonal?
The SIP committee met on September 9th and began its first meeting with a review of this year's schedule of meetings. This year's meeting, similar to last year's, will each contain a program presentation that will provide the committee with a detailed overview of instructional programs within the district. The committee heard a presentation from Visual Performing Arts Supervisor Shauna Longo on the various components and the arts programs in the Westfield schools. Mrs. Longo highlighted the creation of a common vision for the VPA department, recent enhancements to the district art show, and the development of connections between the Westfield Public School VPA department and the broader Westfield community. Mrs. Longo is excited about the future development of new electives for music classes at the intermediate schools and the possible expansion of honors and dual enrollment courses in the arts. The committee reviewed 2 policies, 5200 attendance and 2365 AI. The attendance policy reflects changes made to the definition of parent, which includes a more comprehensive definition, and changes to the regulation for approved absences by the Department of Education for student attendance at civics events. Changes to the regulation also provide guidance to school administrators for responding to students who engage in extended and consecutive unexcused absences from school. The artificial attendance policy is recommended by Strauss Esme for adoption. This policy provides the district with guidance on critical components when constructing a more comprehensive AI plan. The committee conducted the annual review of the district's professional development and mentoring plans, which align closely with the various goals within the strategic plan. Finally, the committee approved a change to the tuition for the summer geometry course from $400 to $700 per student. This change reflects increases in compensation for instructors and comparative costs charged by surrounding districts offering the same summer course. Thank you.
Any questions? Excellent. Move to Finance and Facilities. Brendan?
So the Finance and Facilities Committee met on Friday. Many items were discussed, mostly referendum, but we also talked ongoing projects, the roofs at Edison and Tamaulipas. The capping has been redone. Solar panels have been reinstalled at Tamaulipas and are in progress at Edison. To prevent the same issue from happening in the future, the roofing company put down extra material under each of the solar panels so that holes aren't punched in the new roof. At Tamaulipas, they did install drop ceilings in 3 classrooms that had the most water damage. The tiles that were up there could not be found and replaced. So instead of painting water damaged tiles, they installed a drop ceiling. At Roosevelt, Phase 2 is nearing completion. The steel beams have been installed. The classrooms are reopened. There was water issues in one classroom, and it's been resolved. The decorative work on the outside, including the GFRC panels, will be installed over the fall, and the scaffolding will be moved to Phase 3, which we expect to begin in the spring. Additionally, the district has purchased 2 school buses. They were part of the budget approved last year by the voters. We expect them to be delivered in the late spring. They're 56-passenger and they're air-conditioned with seatbelts. The Fab Lab at Roosevelt, work is ongoing, but I believe the classroom is open for use. So the work is ongoing at night with lighting and ceiling work happening after hours. Classroom 123 was a room that we're breaking up into small group rooms, and that is ongoing and nearing construction as well, or nearing completion. It should be done sometime in October, but the rooms are being used again before that. As we were just talking about field, Rob, we're purchasing new softball batting cages for the high school softball team. Purchase order was done this week. We'll have an installation date as soon as we have a better time around delivery. And the varsity's baseball field will be renovated the same way that the softball field was done with the same company. So the infield will be reconditioned. The outfield will have any drainage issues addressed by the same company that did the softball field here across the parking lot, which came out beautiful. Let's see, what else am I missing here? And on tonight's agenda, I just want to highlight several items that we're going to be asking everybody to approve. Items G through O is a submission to the state for the alterations, renovations, and additions that we discussed in the presentation. Each school is called out separately. First with the submission of the project plans to the State Department of Education, and then an amendment to our district long-range facilities plan. Item P is then submitting that long-range facilities plan to the state. And item R is a resolution authorizing Patty's office to hire a public relations firm, Laura Bishop Communications, to help us with the public relations aspect of getting this bond approved. As we all understand, this is a massive project, and making sure that everybody in town has all the information before we ask them to vote in April is key. And hiring a firm that does it professionally made more sense than asking our already taxed staff to take on another massive project. So on that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to. All right.
Thank you very much. Next, Policies, Personnel, and Governance. Leila?
The PPG committee met on September 11th. Our first order of business was to set the monthly meeting schedule for the 2024-25 school year. Additionally, we reviewed the policy alert from Strauss-Esme. The committee is recommending several policies and regulations for reading tonight under item A on the agenda. The majority of these policies have been revised to be aligned with state code and federal policy. Board member number and term is revised. Again, this has to do with reformatting, code changes and alignment, and vacancy depending upon the proximity to election. Policy and regulation involving physical examination is revised due to the New Jersey Office of Health guidance regarding tuberculosis testing. Service animals is revised, the policy to align with the federal policy, which requires such permission along with the Americans with Disability Act. We have the firearms and weapons policy as well, which basically is stating that individuals with disabilities need to be able to fully participate in drills, and plans and procedures need to reflect necessary accommodations for that to happen. Again, policy and regulation 8467, which is also firearms and weapons, is revised for alignment. And then the final policy pertains to volunteer athletic coaches and co-curricular activity advisors and assistants having to do with the screening for tuberculosis. So those will be on the agenda for first reading tonight. Additionally, we reviewed possible policy discussion topics for the year based upon board member, community, and administrative feedback, including board member use of social networks, cell phone usage in schools, the homework policy with regards to the policy 8220, which has to do with the school year, the superintendent's duties and evaluation of the superintendent, and we also discussed school safety and security as, again, possible policy discussion topics for the year. Possible personnel topics for the year were also discussed, again, based upon feedback from the board, community, and administration. The committee will receive presentations and updates throughout the year on the following topics: job description, organization chart, and Title IX. Possible governance topics for the year that we discussed were identifying and understanding the New Jersey Department of Education required reports used to monitor school districts. Dr. Gonzalez presented on several of those this evening. And review the board self-evaluation process and board goals. As usual, our agenda is listed on the board portal for our board members, and our next meeting is scheduled for 10/10.
Yes, sure. Go ahead, CJ. Quick question.
Thank you. Yeah, just I appreciate that summary, and I know I haven't really had the chance to discuss some of these policy initiatives with the policy committee, but I just wanted to throw out one idea, which is, I know we're looking at 2365 about acceptable use of generative artificial intelligence, generative AI, and I know this may be part of, kind of a statewide, policy suggestion as to what it might look like. But I just wanted to throw out the idea that there may be other types of AI other than generative AI. I wouldn't want to, there's some aspects of this policy initiative here that kind of encompass AI tools generally, whereas others talk about generative AI by itself. So I just want to throw out the idea that maybe, we look to or talk about, expanding the number of AI technologies from just generative. But that's it. Thank you.
That was the policy by SIP, correct?
SIP.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, with the committee reports complete, we will now move to the opportunity to recognize public. This is on agenda action items only. During this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. Those are the items listed in letters and numbers on the current agenda. As a courtesy, allow current students and staff of the Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, the specific action items that they are commenting on, and ask that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee and not to individual members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. All right. Seeing no one approach, we will close the first public comment session and move to board action items. First, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 27th, 2024 regular board meeting and 2 executive session minutes, as well as the August 28th, 2024 special board meeting and executive session minutes. Do I have a second? I'll take Kent for that. We can do that hopefully by a voice vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And abstentions? Okay, that carries. Next, Sonal, would you mind moving the governance items for the agenda, please?
Sure, I'd like to move item A under governance section of tonight's agenda. That is to approve the 2023-2028 strategic plan year 2 activities as follows. Whereas the Board of Education has adopted a comprehensive strategic plan for the years 2023 to 2028, outlining key goals and objectives aimed at enhancing educational outcomes, operational efficiency, and community engagement. And whereas year 1 of the strategic plan was successfully implemented, establishing foundational activities and indicators. And whereas the activities planned for year 2 build upon this progress to further advance the strategic plan's goals, including but not limited to deepening curriculum enhancements, improving student wellness, strengthening community partnerships, and preparing for the upcoming referendum to support facility improvements, full-day kindergarten, and other critical infrastructure needs. And whereas the successful execution of these activities is crucial to achieving the district's long-term goals of providing high-quality education and fostering an inclusive and supportive learning environment for all students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education, do we have to vote before I read this part? Can I keep reading? Okay. That the Board of Education hereby approves the activities associated with year 2 of the strategic plan as outlined in the attached documentation, and authorizes the superintendent and district administration to proceed with the implementation of said activities in accordance with district policies and goals. Can I have a second? Thank you, Julie.
Patty, we can have a vote?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan, Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Thank you, that carries. Layla, will you please move to the personnel section of the agenda, please?
I'd like to move items A through Y on the personnel section of tonight's agenda. Can I have a second? Sonal? Do you give your comments now? That's okay.
Before we vote, I think we have one retirement to acknowledge.
Yes, this evening we do have one retirement, and that is for Sharon Shaney Contreras. She began her teaching career in October 1999 by splitting her time between Franklin and Tamaqua Elementary Schools, dedicating her first year to teaching special education. Over the next 24 years, she committed herself fully to Tamaqua, teaching special education for 22 of those years and serving on the building INRS team for the last 9. Her dual roles in special education and basic skills made her an invaluable team member, providing targeted advice to teachers and support to parents. As a staunch advocate for her students, Shaney ensured that her IEPs were effectively implemented, including the use of assistive technology devices. In her final 3 years, she transitioned to teaching Achieve or basic skills, significantly impacting first graders with her specialized knowledge and Orton Gillingham certification. Highly respected by her peers, Shaney's contributions extended beyond the classroom to volunteering for the annual variety show and participating in the Sunshine Committee and representing her colleagues as a district WEA teacher representative. We wish Shaney all the best for a happy and healthy retirement.
Thank you. With that, I think we can move to a vote.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli, Layla,
Yes to all, but I need to abstain from E.
okay. Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
That motion passes. Next, Finance and Facilities. Kent?
Thanks, Rob. I'd like to move items A through Y under the finance section of tonight's agenda. May I have a second, please? Anyone? Thank you, Sonal. I'd like to highlight some donations. First, SJC Lawn Care for providing $3,000 worth of labor and materials to raise the height of an existing canopy shade at Lincoln. Second, thank you to the Franklin PTO for donating $14,375 to replace the Gaga game pit at Franklin's playground. As someone has played Gaga with their kids, that's important. Number 3, WSA Youth Soccer Association. Thank you to them for providing $16,616 to help renovate and maintain the Elm Street field. Much needed, thank you. Number 4, the Patiga Gala family donated Mixuo cello valued at $1,583 for the Edison Music Department. And last but not least, thank you to the Westfield Coalition for the Arts for donating $300 to fund the cost for all K-12 visual art teachers to attend the professional development event at the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey in Summit on October 14th, 2024. And this tally brings the year-to-date donations to $34,291. Thank you to all. That's it.
Excellent. Move to a vote, please.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Next, back to Layla for the policy section of the agenda.
I'd like to move item A under the policy section of tonight's agenda. Do I have a second? Kent?
No discussion. Patty, we move to a vote?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
Abstain from A2 and yes to the rest.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Next to Sonal for curriculum instruction and assessment.
I'd like to move items A through C under the SIP section of tonight's agenda. Can I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Brendan.
No discussion? Patty?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz, Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Thank you. That carries. I'll call the board's attention to the notes for the record. And there having been no unfinished or new business presented for the agenda, we'll move now to liaison reports, if anyone has any. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to a final item, which is to recognize the public for general comments. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public are invited to address the Board of Education on any topic. As a courtesy, allow current students and staff of Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, and asks that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual board members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Come on up. Correct.
We're not allowed to answer.
We typically let the public, just public comment. It's not a back and forth question and answer.
I wish for the Bible to be taught in schools, to turn the other cheek, and through the teachings of the Bible, I think we should have more religious teachings because they are filled with more love and they're filled with more love and compassion than who cares to lend up the moon. We're not teaching children how to not exterminate entire populaces. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I think we'll close public session and request a motion to adjourn. Have a second?
Second?
Second. Sonal, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned.